All right, we're back here on the GSMC Baseball Podcast, bringing you our third segment, which is going to be talking about the spring training standings, which are majority final. There are a few games going on right now, but those will only be one to the win or loss column, so I don't think it's too influential to the standings. So, yeah, we'll be talking about it and just get my takes on it. So, first, we're going to start off with the Grapefruit League and the Baltimore Orioles. So, the Orioles did win the Grapefruit League by a pretty good margin, going 23-6 and having a 793 winning percentage. No surprises here. Younger players usually play a lot in spring training, and the Orioles have probably the best young team in the entire league. Just so many young stars, including Jackson Holliday, of course, Colton Cowser, Adley Rutschman, guys like that. So no surprise here that they finished number one. After that, at number two, we have the Detroit Tigers at 20-9 and a 690 winning percentage. I'm kind of not surprised about this, but happy about this. I think the Tigers have a good young team, and they have good players as well. So I'm happy for them that they did finish so high, and they finally have something to look forward to this year. Hopefully Spencer Torkelson can break out. I think that's really all you can ask for as a Tigers fan. After that, we have Boston, who went 15-12 with a 600 winning percentage to finish third in the Grapefruit. Good for them. They've had a lot of injuries affect them this season, so I'm glad they did have something positive go their way and that they did finish high in the Grapefruit League standings and in the spring training standings. So really happy for that, and yeah, good for them there. After that, we did have Washington finish at 15-12 and have a 5.56 winning percentage. Again, not surprised about this for Washington. Like I've kind of said with Detroit and Baltimore, Washington has a really great young team, and when you have a really great young team, it's going to translate to spring training. You are going to finish really well. So happy for them that this did happen with this, and that they did finish so high. I think they could be a sleeper team if their young talent does come up. Guys like Dylan Cruz, guys like James Wood, C.J. Abrams, if they perform really well. So excited to watch them, even as a Mets fan, and just excited to see that core in action. After that, fifth, we had the New York Mets, 15-14. With a 5.17 winning percentage, kind of a representation of what they'll do this year, just exactly average, 15-14. So I think it's just a representation of what they are going to do this year, be mediocre. So not a surprise here. I think this record, again, shows what's going to happen with them. So they did have really good pitching this spring, which is nice, and hopefully that does translate to the season this year. So it's really all you can ask for as a Mets fan, and that's what I'm hoping for. After that, we have the Cardinals at 12-12, exactly 500. Kind of the same as the Mets. I expected them to be average, and that's what they were. No surprises here. Again, their hitting core is very good, but their pitching core is so bad. So I do expect them to kind of be exactly average. Not a surprise here. So, yeah, makes sense, this standing here. After that, we had Houston at 12-14. Kind of surprising that they did finish under 500 with a 481 winning percentage. Again, spring training doesn't mean much going into the season, but they did have some of their stars playing a good amount, like Kyle Tucker, Jose Altuve, Yordan Alvarez, Alex Bregman. They had Framber Valdez start a few times, so kind of surprising they did finish under 500, but they had some injuries get in their way of spring training, so I'm not too worried about them, and overall I still think they'll be pretty good. After that, we had the Yankees finish at 14-16 with a 467 winning percentage. Kind of not surprised here again. Yankees have a great team. I don't think anybody's doubting that. But overall, I do think that there were some injuries that affected them, and I do think that those kind of distracted them in the season, in spring training this year. So not a big surprise, and not really something that was too surprising to me because of what did happen this spring training with the injuries to Judge, to Cole. So, yeah. The Marlins finished at 2-12 with a 455 winning percentage, below the Yankees. Again, not a surprise here. They're not that good, and they've had a lot of injuries, so I didn't expect them to play that well, and they didn't, even in their home state. So not too surprising here, and kind of what I'm expecting them this year, but I also think that they'll finish a little bit worse because of the pitching. So be interesting to watch their season, definitely. After that, we got the Pirates at 13-16 with a 448 winning percentage. Now, this was kind of surprising to me because, as I stated, young teams perform well in the regular season, in the spring training, and the Pirates obviously are a good young team. So having all this young talent and finishing only at this clip is a little surprising to me. Again, it's not a huge deal because it is spring training, but if I was a Pirates fan, I would have liked to see a little bit more, I think. You did see some nice guys develop more, like Jared Jones, your number 5 starter, who did end up making the MLB roster. So I think that's good if you're a Pirates fan, and that's something exciting to see. So you can only hope that translates into the regular season. After that, we have the Atlanta Braves finishing at 12-15. Not that much of a surprise here. They're a great team. They don't need to play their starters that much, so not too surprising they finished below, and they don't have the best farm system because they have so many great players, so not a huge surprise that they finished this low. After that, we got Toronto at 13-17. Again, not that surprising. A good team. They didn't really play the starters all that much. Kind of trying to see what the young guys had in store for them. So not a big surprise. They finished kind of lower in the standings. So I wouldn't be worried if I'm a Blue Jays fan. I'd just be watching them, seeing what does happen this season. And I don't think spring training is going to have any effect on them at all. But we'll see what happens, I guess. So after that, we have Tampa Bay, who was 11-16 at a .407 winning percentage. Not a huge surprise here again. The Rays are kind of going through a transitional period with all the injuries they've suffered with guys like Jeffrey Springs, Drew Rasmussen, Shane McClanahan, the off-the-field situations they've had with Wander Franco. So I think they're trying to figure out who's going to be starting this year, who's going to be playing a lot of time. So they're kind of going through a transitional period this entire spring training and probably a lot of the season as well. So it's not surprising that they finished this low. I think they'll do much better this season. So that's really all you can ask for if you are a Rays fan. After that, we have the Phillies, who finished 9-15. Kind of surprising here. I think they have a great team, and finishing 9-15 with a .375 winning percentage is kind of low for what I think they could do. So, yeah, that's really what I'd be worried about if I was a Phillies fan. Again, not too worried because I think they're still a great team, but they dealt with a lot of injuries, including Taijuan Walker, some of their bullpen guys. So I think that's really the reason they did finish this low in the Grapefruit League, and you're just hoping that they can do better in the regular season. After that, we have the Minnesota Twins at 9-19, who did finish last in the Grapefruit League. Not a huge surprise here. I think they have a lot of players who are good but are kind of injury prone, like Carlos Correa, like Byron Buxton. So I think they were just trying to figure out who's going to play in spring training, kind of just getting some bodies on the field. So not a huge surprise that the Twins finished low, but I think they're pretty clearly one of the better teams in the AL. So I wouldn't be too mad if I'm a Twins fan. I wouldn't be too worried at all. So I think it's just spring training blues, and I think they'll be better going into the season. So, all right, going over now the Cactus League for spring training. At the top, we of course have the Kings, the Dodgers, 14-5, 700 winning percentage. I mean, they're incredible. They're going to win. They're going to win the. They're going to be great in the regular season. They're great in the spring training. So not too much to say about the Dodgers. I think they're pretty great, and I don't think really anybody's debating that. They're a very good team, and they are the elite of this league. So not too surprising. The Giants at 15-11. That was something that did surprise me a little bit. They've had a lot of pitching injuries to their team, and the fact that they did finish so high still gives me hope if I were a Giants fan. The pitching did come through, the depth they've had, especially Jordan Hicks. He was doing really well during spring training, so I was happy for him to see that. I did think the contract they gave him was a little bit interesting trying to make him a starting pitcher, so that was really it. But yeah, I'm excited to watch the Giants this season, excited to see what they do, and overall, just excited to watch them. Colorado was third, finishing 16-12. Some of the best news the Rockies have had in years. I mean, they haven't had much success in the league the past few years. So them finishing this high in the Cactus League in spring training, I think is pretty great. As I talked about last episode, we had a whole segment dedicated to them. You can see the fruits of their labor coming up. How they've been so bad, but they've been bad in getting young talent across the way. Guys like Adel Amador, Ezekiel Tovar, who they just extended, Chase Dollander, Jordan Beck. So I think there are a lot of good young talent coming up with this Rockies core, and I'm excited for them finishing third in the Cactus League. And I'm just hopeful the players could do something. I still think the organization doesn't really know what they're doing, but overall, I am excited to watch them and excited to see what they do this season. After that, we have Chicago at 16-14, having a .532 winning percentage. Chicago is kind of just average, and I think you see that here, just a little bit above average. I'd say 16-12, finishing at 533. Not a surprise here. I think they have a lot of good players, but I kind of think they needed to add more this offseason. So I'm not surprised they finished 16-12. They had some nice play this spring training from some of their young guys, but overall, I don't think there's anything to be worried about. And they finished fourth, so it's definitely still a positive. Milwaukee, their NL-centric counterpart, finished 16-14 and had a 533 winning percentage. Not a surprise here from Milwaukee. They have, again, a young team with the subtractions they've made, especially to Corbin Burns. So these guys are going to come up and they're going to start performing. So glad to see them winning something and being high in the Cactus League, going off they're going to have an interesting year this year. So it's nice to start off on a good foot. Seattle, the league had finishing 14-13 with a 519 winning percentage. I thought the Mariners do a little bit better. I think they have a lot of great young talent and a lot of great players as well. So I thought they would have done a little bit better, but they were above 500 in spring training. So I don't think it's a big deal and not something I'd be worried about if I was a Mariners fan. So not too surprising here. After that, we have the Cleveland Guardians, who finished batting average at 14-14, kind of just describing them and their franchise over the past few years. So not too surprising. So, the Guardians can be really boring this year, kind of just like their spring training standings. I don't really have much to say. I think the most exciting thing for them is going to be the MLB draft when they have the first overall pick. So that's kind of it. So not much to say about the Guardians. Kansas City, they finished 13-13 as well, batting average. They're also an average team, not really in the way that the Guardians are. I think they've gotten a lot better, and I think they're going to be better next year as well. But the younger guys still have to develop. They added some nice players this season in Seth Lugo, in Michael Wacha, Hunter Renfroe, guys like that. So I think overall they're a good team, but I think this spring training standing kind of represents where they are right now as a team. Arizona, 14-15. I thought they'd do better, honestly. I think they have a great young team, especially seeing them making the World Series last year. So I thought they'd do better, but not too surprising for them. And I think they're going to be really good going into the year. And yeah, it's all you can hope for as a Diamondbacks fan, just them being really good, trying to make it to the World Series again. And that's kind of it. So yeah, just hopefully about that. After that, we had Oakland at 13-14. Doing much better than I thought they would. I thought they would win like 2 games because they're not very good. I think most people know that at this point. A's are not good, even in spring training. So, yeah, surprising for the A's, but good for them. Finally have something to show and are excited about. So, yeah, great job by the A's to not finish last and show at least something for the young core going forward. San Diego finished 9-10. Didn't play that much games, which was surprising, but they've had a lot of turnover this spring training with some injuries with the Dylan Cease trade, so I'm not going to put too much stock in this. As I said last segment, I still have them being a playoff team, so it's not too surprising that they were like this, but I think they're going to do much better in the regular season, and that's kind of it. Cincinnati, I thought would do much better. They were 11-15, third worst team in the Cactus League. I think they have a great young team, and I think they have a lot of great young players, but you've had already some subtractions to your team with Novelli Marte, with Edwin Arroyo, I forgot his name for a second, with injury and suspensions. So not too surprising with their young players being out a little bit, but they still have younger guys like Ellie De La Cruz, like Matt McClain, who got hurt as well, Christian Encarnacion Strand, Spencer Steer. We're not exactly sure how significant of time these guys played during spring training, but they still have a great young team and a team I'm looking forward to watching. As you've known during the podcast, I'm very high in them, and yeah. Texas finished 11-15, which was surprising to me. They arguably had the top spring training performer this entire spring training with Wyatt Langford, who was just hitting bombs after bombs after bombs. So definitely surprising because they had such a great player during spring training, but as I've said a lot, their pitching is not ideal. So I understand why they finished below, because they finished this low because of the pitching, even though they do have some good young players. So And last but not least, we have the White Sox finishing as the worst team in the entire spring training, 9-20, below the lowest Cactus League team and the lowest spring training team as well. Not surprising here. They are not good. They do not have much going for them right now, especially in spring training. Not much to say here. If you're a White Sox fan, you know this. If you're a baseball fan, you know this. The White Sox are not very good. They're not going to be very good this season. So, yeah, not great. And it's kind of it if you're a White Sox fan. I think you kind of expect these things for this year. So, that was our first segment talking about the spring training standings and it being final. So, we're going to go to our fourth segment here, which is going to be talking about news around the league, just some general news stories. There's only a few today, but they were kind of more notable than usual. So, I'll be talking about them in depth a little bit. So, yeah, we'll be doing that, and we'll see you after that, our fourth and final segment, and we'll talk to you then. So thanks. See you after that. Bye.